Cameras on. Sound is going.
What time is it?
George time. George time. George time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is One Round with George. Ever since I was a kid and saw Sugar Ray Leonard fight, I've loved boxing. I was at HBO for 15 years as a feature producer, won a few sports Emmys. Not bad. I got to travel the world and tell the great stories of these fighters.
Maybe something of a rooting interest in Alexander among the entire HBO Sports crew here, because Alexander's manager is former HBO Sports producer George Jacobin.
I've managed a fighter, I've worked a fighter's corner, being as close to the action as you can get. My life has revolved around boxing. Showtime, January 22nd, the long reign of featherweight champion Gary Russell Jr. And Russell Jr. was outpointed by Filipino Mark Magsayo. Russell went into the fight injured, announced to the public he was injured. He clearly went into the fight hurt, didn't feel like Magsayo was a threat, and that cost him his title. I think Magsayo is a tough fighter, but he couldn't take full advantage of an opponent who had one arm. Are you a little tired of hearing about fights that might be made? Like when Errol Spence and Bud Crawford are gonna fight. Who is Canelo fighting next? Let's stop focusing on fights that aren't made and focus on the ones that are. April 30th is a historic matchup for boxing. Unified lightweight champion Katie Taylor faces off against 7-division champion Amanda Serrano. In Madison Square Garden, they're the headliners. The first time that women have headlined at Madison Square Garden, the mecca of boxing. This fight is on DAZN. This is a fight that I cannot wait to see. Katie Taylor is a skilled, unbeaten champion. She's the unified lightweight champion. I truly think that Amanda Serrano is going to go down as one of the best fighters of her generation. I know who I'll be rooting for. January 15th, Bernard Hopkins celebrated a birthday. Bernard is one of the greatest champions in boxing history. Hopkins was just a special fighter. Longtime middleweight champion. He was a light heavyweight champion. The oldest boxer in history to win a world championship. Hopkins was the first fighter I ever interviewed at HBO. And if you don't know this about Bernard Hopkins can talk. This interview was supposed to last an hour. It lasted almost 3. But I learned that anytime Hopkins took a breath, I had to jump in and go for the next questions. I love seeing him fight, and happy birthday to Bernard Hopkins. January 26th would have been Harold Letterman's 82nd birthday. Harold passed away a few years ago. He was a longtime judge in boxing, longtime unofficial judge at HBO. He's a Hall of Famer, and he was my friend. He was one of the first people I met when I traveled to my first HBO fight, and he was nothing but nice to me over the years. And let me tell you something, nobody loved the sport more than Harold Letterman.
Harold, how do you have it for 9? Okay, Jim. Jim, I gotta tell you. Okay, Jim.
More than 10 years ago, I helped do a feature we did at HBO on Harold Letterman. I was at his house. He was a pharmacist in New York, and it was incredible because every inch of the wall space in his living room was covered with boxing pictures, boxing posters, pictures of him with someone in boxing. Harold Letterman loved boxing, and I think boxing loved him. January 24th, it marked 46 years since one of the most exciting heavyweight fights of all time took place between former heavyweight champion George Foreman and former world title challenger Ron Lyle. This was a 5-round slugfest. The 4th round is when everything exploded. Lyle dropped Foreman early in the round. It looked like Lyle was on his way to a knockout. Foreman came back and dropped Lyle himself. The tides turned. It looked like it was Foreman's fight to win. Then at the end of the round, Lyle dropped Foreman again. The bell saved him, but George Foreman was a special fighter. Round 5, Lyle tried to finish the job, couldn't do it. Foreman came back, knocked Lyle out. It was a great fight. Foreman won on a 5th round knockout. This is a fight you need to get on YouTube and watch this. The bell has rung, and another round with me is done. If you want boxing content, I've got it. Go to my YouTube page, subscribe to the page, like the content. I promise you'll like it, and I promise there's more to come.